Brian here from Expert Dojo. I'm here with my great friend and startup that we have invested in here at Expert Dojo, Amit from Artishok. Incredible company, changing the face of the workplace. How you see the place you work in 5, 10, 15 years' time will be radically different to how it is today. And that is much thanks to Amit and what the team at Artishok are doing. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Oh, I'm great, Brian. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us on this podcast.
Man, this podcast is to discuss greatness, so it's a natural that you should be here, and you're buzzing in from Israel, which of course is the home of the greatest technology on the planet and the greatest innovations. Talk to us a little bit about Artishok and how you came up with the name, what it represents, and what your company is doing.
Okay, sure. So first of all, I'll tell you a bit about how I came up with this company, how we started this all. So actually, I was a part of a team that exited. I'm coming from the security industry. I exited with another startup, and while we were transitioning into the new building, the new offices, I started taking a deeper look into building technologies and or the lack of them. I wasn't sure what was like actually wrong with it, but I wasn't seeing any kind of technology there. So it started like a 1-year research on IoT and building technologies, trying to understand why is it broke, why I don't see these technologies, the advanced technologies that are implemented in the other industries, such as security, right? That led me to the thought that maybe there is something that needs to be fundamentally changed. Like Tesla is building, their technologies from the ground up. I thought that the new company I would build will do the same thing. And by the way, our neighbor in that office was one of the largest manufacturers of autonomous cars. So it was very interesting, like to see the parallel of the things.
So the timing was right. So, we came in a little bit after this point when we invested, because for us it was very clear, right? The workplace is broken. The workplace has been broken for years. You had this crazy situation for so many years. I remember when I used to look at Mad Men, that's a TV series on Netflix, where you got like the guy or the girl, normally the guy in those days, where they have their 400 or 500 square foot office, and then outside there's a secretary that has another 200 or 300 square feet, and then outside that there's another thousands of square feet which are wasted. And you can have a company which has got 50, 100 employees, which has got 20,000 square feet, which is of course 2,000 square meters, but which is just a waste of space. It's just way too much space. And then we reach this moment where, number one, we have massive inefficiencies within workers, because you have got folks who are traveling for hours and hours and hours I don't even want to add up what that amount of employees would waste in a car or getting to work every single year. And then on the other side of it, real estate and the cost of providing workplace to employees became the number 2 cost behind the cost of employees themselves. Crazy. And that's where you saw an opportunity.
So you're correct about that. And by the way, this is not a secret for any facility manager. So this was a problem that facility managers were dealing all the time. It just happens that COVID-19 has just accelerated, and now everyone knows this is a problem. And everybody has started noticing that the offices are completely empty right now, and everybody's pressuring. Also, by the way, COVID-19 has also proved to many companies that the productivity of the employee actually can improve while working from home. In regards to all the benefits you have noted, by the way, if it's commuting in Israel, for example, it's one of the worst in the world. In India, also on the top of the list. So there are many countries all over the world that really suffer from the daily commute.
Nobody likes
and
this.
Of course,
it's a nightmare.
yeah,
Nobody likes this. Like you get anywhere in the world, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, it's hell. Everybody has their own private little hell. You're choosing whatever radio station you're going to listen to because you're going to be in. There's a great movie, Office Space, and it's so old. I bet you a bunch of people haven't seen it. But there's a guy in a car in LA, and he's on the 405, which is like the worst freeway ever, and he's driving, and then there's this old guy on a Zimmer frame right beside him, and he's got a Zimmer frame, and he's walking past him in the car as the guy's sitting in the car, and he's like pulling out of his lane and then pulling into the lane, because it's a hell everywhere in the world. Like, this is so stupid, and it's been stupid for years. Nobody wants to do the traveling. People, actually, you're right about COVID, because people have realized they want to be in the office, right? Being at home 100% is not the solution, right? The solution is we want to be where we're the most productive, and we want to be where we're the happiest. And if we can meet happiness and most productive and lowest cost in the same place, then God bless you. We got the greatest company on the planet.
Correct. And, this is something that the statistics are there. Up until COVID, offices were used like up to 27% of the space or of the time. So a lot of unutilized space. And as I said, the facility managers knew about it. I mean, it wasn't a new thing. It's just it happens that everyone is now trying to implement some kind of a hybrid approach after understanding all the benefits, right? But they're struggling because they don't really know what is the correct balance that I should apply to my company. How will this all work, together? How do I know what is exactly being used right now? Should I change the office layout? What will be the real estate portfolio? So many questions. We're getting bombarded by many prospects right now, trying to ask, what do we do? What do we monitor? What do we don't? What can we do exactly to really improve this this situation? And how can we really benefit out of it?
And
the benefits are huge.
They're massive, right? What sold us on the investment into you in a second was one word. There's one word that is important here with companies coming up with the optimum solution. Because we know there's loads of options, right? We know there's hot desking. We know there's hoteling. We know there are third-party spaces they can use. We know there are coffee shops that people can work from. We know that there are co-working spaces. We know that there's home working. So the solutions are out there and the solutions are well documented. However, there is one word and one word alone that is the difference between a company successfully doing this or absolutely effing it up. And that word is what you provide. And that is measurement. You allow a company to measure the productivity and the effectiveness of people working in individual areas, along with making sure that the costs of those areas are being reduced because they are not wasteful. Tell us a bit about that.
So first of all, you're absolutely correct. I usually don't start with that when I talk to investors or even the companies, because they're currently at a very early stage of the management part. So at the planning part and how do we manage this? So first of all, we start at that point, and we're helping them using using our knowledge and of course algorithms to relay out, to do the chair picking, and to start with that, and to provide the employees and the managers with the tools to arrange this whole hybrid office, if it's a shift management, and etc. But what we're also doing is that we're starting to integrate. It's possible. Everybody, it's not required, right? So we're starting to integrate with anything that is within the workspace. So if it's sensors or enterprise applications such as calendars, emails, you name it, HR data, and we're getting all that data feeds in order to make that management and make the productivity more measurable. So we're not trying to solve the productivity riddle, right? We don't know what makes a man or a woman productive. But what we can know and what we can do is we have employees and companies, they establish KPIs, and they're measured quarterly and even weekly. Every employee, at least in the tech industry, has a KPI, which he needs to follow the tasks and everything. What we're doing is interesting because we're doing differential productiveness. What that means is that we're just checking if you're better at home or not. Okay, so that's it. We're showing the managers and the employees themselves if they're doing better.
And you're also measuring the efficiency of the space by using the
Correct.
sensors in that space as well. So, for example, if a space has got 3 people in there for 4 out of 5 days, and that space has the ability to have 25 people in there, your sensors will say, guys, there's something up. And at the same
Okay.
time, if they reduce it down to like 4 or 5 people, your sensors will be able to tell, hey guys, we've actually maxed out on the 4 or 5 spots. So what we need to
Correct.
do is use one of the third-party spaces or use one of the employee spaces, but all of this is done in advance. So the productivity is never, ever, ever impacted by maximizing the efficiency of the space.
So yeah, there's a lot of things here to unpack. I think your everything is correct, and it starts, as I said, from the ground up. Also by implementing our sensors, which are AI and battery operated. They do a multitude of operations, such as the occupancy and measuring the environment itself. So we need to be alerted if let's say there's a high CO2 levels in that space. That is a big no-no for productivity, and also all other environmental effects to the employees. By the way, employees can use that even at home, right? If we have an employee that has allergies, we want to make sure that his home is suitable for work. We would like to check the air quality there, right? It's not required, but it's really really helpful for that employee.
Right.
So yes, let's assume that COVID-19, there's lots of regulations when you need to occupy the office, and COVID-19, if you reduce the office size and you have a regulation to comply to, you don't have any space left, right? Because you need to comply to the space, to the distancing requirements, and etc. So yes, we are creating a possibility for the companies to overflow or to occupy other spaces. So it could be other enterprises, it can be co-working spaces. So it can be like a multitude of options. It can be hotels. So you can overflow to wherever you want, basically, right? It's a pop-up hourly based. But we're doing another interesting thing. When we're going to these partners, right, to these hotels, we're also installing the sensors there. So the gain that the places have, they got control, right? Because they know people are there. And everybody knows what's the situation in their space. So the hosts are also get data on their environment, right?
So I'm going to change my one word to 2 words then.
Sure.
I'm going to say integrated measurement.
Correct.
Because that's where it's key, right? It's actually looking at all of the disparate systems and then integrating them together and then measuring the output on a by-minute basis. This is why this is so brilliant. So look, investors out there, everyone who's in the same situation as Expert Dojo, and by the way, that situation is we look for unicorns. It's just that simple. And within looking for unicorns, our whole methodology is future trending. And we say to ourselves, okay, what's happening right now today that's tremendously important? Well, there's a couple of things happening. Number one, companies are going to come under more and more expense pressure. They're going to be forced to cut their costs as much as they possibly can. The very first place you want to do that is inside your workspace, but they don't know how to do it. So, hey, future of work is suddenly going to become really important. What else is happening? You got COVID, still ravaging the world, and nobody knows how to get rid of it yet, and there's no sign of a vaccine. So what do we want to avoid? We want to avoid being in spaces with other people. So having the old workspace as it was before, that's gone. That is probably never going to come back again. And so that's, again, another really big future trend for us. Number 3, there's more and more of a focus, and there has been for the last 5 or 10 years on the stock market, on companies producing profit. And that's even in the early stage space as well. Investors are looking more and more to companies that can show that they have a sustainable return back to investors. So what that means is they have to focus on these bottom line issues, which were not such a problem before. And then finally, CEOs are just becoming more and more sophisticated. And for them, they want to make sure that they have a company that can last for a long time. So if they get hit with something like a COVID or just the next COVID, whatever that is, that they have enough cash in the bank to be okay. And then the final area is that everybody wants to increase the productivity of workers while workers are looking for a better home-life balance. So I looked at you initially, Amit, and I looked at what your company was doing, and I said to myself, okay, we have a guy from an exited company, big tick in the box. We have a phenomenal engineer, amazing tech background, whereby you build this stuff yourself. You're not reliant on some bozo over in Poland or Ireland or India to build something for you. You're already the top technology builder in the top technology builder country in the world. What else? You're building a product which I've already outlined is absolutely ripe for something which is my favorite thing as an investor, which is frictionless innovation. And frictionless innovation is better than disruption because it means that nobody minds it happening. Actually, to the contrary, they encourage it to happen. So for all investors who are listening, I absolutely encourage you, when we get to the end of this podcast and we pass out Amit's details, to reach out to him and find out what he and his team are doing and actually get into the weeds and look at how they're using the sensors, how they're looking at the integrated technology, how they're using artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to look and actually build the perfect workplace of the future. I'm like your number one fan, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, better than my mother.
How many people give money, invest money, and then they love you at the same? Like,
Oh,
that doesn't
that's
happen.
well, you know, I'm telling you the things the things I tell you in private. You know what I think, and yeah, it's awesome to be on board. Awesome to be on board in Expert Dojo, and I think this is one of the solutions where the problem solution and the benefits are so clear. It's so simple.
Yeah,
You take a 4,000 employee company. They can reduce $30 million a year, let's say, and
huge.
we can take 10%. So that's easy peasy. That's so simple equation, and this is our value, right? And this
Absolutely
is just
huge.
and Brian, this is just the beginning, right? Because we're not even talking about productivity. We're talking about just reducing office space.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely. We
while
haven't
while
even
we're
touched it.
doing yeah
Go on.
yeah
No, I'm
so
sorry. Go on.
while we're I'm saying that while we are actually producing value, we're creating additional value. So we're measuring productivity on so many factors. We're creating the largest data set for scientifically monitoring productivity on the largest scale in the world. So this is like the longer goal for us, right? Is first of all, disrupt the real estate industry by providing hybrid real estate profiles. Okay, that's one. And the second thing is creating a very, very large data set and insights on employee productivity and improving
Beautiful.
them, of course. So I
Beautiful.
think these are very, very long-term goals for us. But as I'm saying, we have very short goals, which are very lucrative without that, right? So we love that. You can bring benefits tomorrow to a company. I just finished a talk with a company that is reducing their space to 80%. We were telling them why. You can go to 50. You don't have a lease. I mean, you can reduce a lot of money. And they started to scratch their heads and saying, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
It's so simple when we have this solution on our hands. We were so afraid, but now we feel confident that we can go even, reduce even more.
And do crazy things. I actually want to get to that in a second. I want to.
Sure.
In a few minutes, I want to be able to take potential investors through what your milestones look like going forward, the types of companies you're going to be bringing in, the types of deals you're going to do with them, how you're going to earn revenue on those deals that you bring through, and how you're going to manage this. Really paint a picture to a unicorn. But before we go there, I'd really like to find out a little bit about the past, because a lot of the times, especially when I talk to companies that we invest in, folks get the impression at the end of the podcast that it was really easy, that you just built it and it's like fine. You woke up on a Monday and by Tuesday afternoon it was built and it was ready and you're like, okay, we're on the road to being a unicorn. And that's not the case. I know this path is difficult and hard and filled with stuff that you just wish you didn't have to deal with every single day. Take us through a little bit that journey so we can get to know a little bit more the real Amit who's built this company.
So I think every startup's road is very hard, it was hard figuring out, all the what are the really pain points for the customers. We were starting as a technological company, looking at some of the technological challenges there. This is what initiated me to go into this industry. It's not a simple one, at least for someone that is not natural to the real estate industry initially, right? So it took me like around a year to just get around all the real estate things, understanding all the lexicons and the jargons, and just building this right. And of course, finding the place that people can really benefit out of it. So we did several pivots, adapting our solution until we have seen this. We said, "Oh wow, this is like a match made in heaven," because we have the technology to really make hybrid workspaces and workforce. By the way, this is very important, manageable. So it's not just building a technology which is very nice. Yeah, you can find the occupancy and better than anyone else, and you have battery operated sensor. That's really not that's really nice. But what's the benefit? Like, what are you? How are you changing the world?
Yeah,
And this
and
is the
that
most important part
yeah,
for us.
and that message evolves. I think as it goes forward, and you start to get more and more feedback from the investors who are in your company. And before we just move beyond this, were there any major obstacles that you hit in the early days that you thought to yourself, I'm not even sure I can get past this? And those obstacles could have been people. We don't have to name them, but you can if you want. Or they can be relationships, or they can be anything, because I know you're a family man as well. So there's a lot that goes into this, and there's a lot of things that are pushing back against you as we go. I say I'm an entrepreneur. I'll never stop being an entrepreneur. You said to me before we started, you're like, I think we got this whole accelerator startup wrong. I'm like the startup every single day. But it's such a selfish, ridiculous beast journey that nobody understands it, because how the hell can they understand it? So maybe just talk about some of the tougher obstacles that you had at the beginning before we jump on to the traction.
Yeah, sure. So I think first of all, the family. I think that without any support, and this is the time to really appreciate what the family provides you with. My wife and my kids, which don't tend not to see me a lot at all. And by the way, Brian, you have to rest too. You're always there. I mean, I'm at Israeli times, and I still see you working at my time. So I'm not sure when do you rest at all. And I think this starts with that. You have to have a very good pack of people around you that can make this work, because you start as a sole believer, right? You're the only one that believes in your solution, and then people just drag along. And then I met a couple of my partners, Gal, which worked for Facebook, and Shimon, which worked for Marvel, and Dima, which worked for Intel. And these people are like the first believers, and they work for a
Fantastic.
really low salary, really, really low salary, if at any, right? And they're just building things which are sometimes wrong, right? We do the measurement, we do the whole cycle, and we end up starting all over again. So these people are great, and then you meet our investors, which are pushing us and are trying to help us, whatever we need in order to make this happen. Even sitting with us, brainstorming, just to make this to make this happen. So without all those people, that would be like impossible. You think
Yeah.
it would be like only the founders and etc., but it's all the people around, the core. I call this the core.
And you've also been very smart, because you've surrounded yourself with great people. For a lot of founders, especially folks that we bring in here, and as I'm sitting on the interviews, you cannot even imagine the amount of breakups, founder breakups, family problems, everything. And I think what you do very well, because you're such a pragmatic person, you lay out the situation in a very, and I don't want to say pessimistic, because it's neither pessimistic nor optimistic, but in a very pragmatic way. like what the expectations are, what's going to be built, where you're going to be, and that actually really plays for you. And I want all startups who are potentially listening to this, or investors, to tell their startups, if investors are listening to it, this is the only way to approach this. If you want to make it through this startup journey intact, you have to be extremely pragmatic, not just in what you think, but also in the information that you share with other people. And that way expectations are managed. Nobody expects an exit in 15 minutes. Nobody expects a massive rise to glory like by the time you get home for dinner. It's about building greatness, and building greatness takes time.
Right. Sometimes I heard, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So this is very important. And Israel is a very, very small country. So what we learn here is to try and be friendly as possible, even when you break up with people, or something doesn't work out. Maybe it's a potential, I don't know, it's a pilot that didn't work out. It didn't happen to us, by the way, but I'm talking in general. We had some consultant that it didn't really work out, and etc. And we are all friends, and we're still communicating with everyone. And we're supportive. And by the way, here and also abroad, I think in the US, we're trying to make connections together, help each other, make us prosper together, because this is the only way, right?
Yeah, fantastic.
And I think that's like really important. So my suggestion, is to really try to be as friendly as possible, even if things don't work out. Try to understand the other side and resolve it as as friendly as possible. Just do everything with a smile, right?
I agree. Good call. Okay, now my favorite part. This is the last part of the podcast, last segment. So we're going to talk through how we build up the pipeline to get us to $100,000 a month in revenue, to get us to $1 million a month in revenue, and to get us to $10 million a month in revenue. All of the investors listening, that's their key. How do we build this company? We have the technology, obviously. You've already shared in great detail. We have the co-founders in the company. We got the team in the company. We have everything we need to build this. What does the journey look like going forward?
So I guess that we're going to do several more pilots here, just to make the product fit, much more tight right now. The gist is very simple. We're going to architects. For now, for this stage, we're going to architects or direct approach to the companies, which are companies size from 500 to 5,000 employees.
Yeah.
The reason for that is extremely, extremely simple. We're going for these companies because the deal time is a lot faster than larger corporates, so it's easy to close them. We're also going for small to medium consultants that are consulting on the hybrid workspace. This, of course, will change when we're going to change gears, right? Because this is going to be like the next around 12 months. This should lead us to around 4 paying enterprises, around 15 workspaces. It's going to be in at least 2 geographies. It's going to yield not a very large ARR, but you get the point, right? We're trying to
annual
explode.
Recurring revenue, yeah.
So, right, the next stage will be to shift gears and go to the larger consultants in the world. We can name them right now, but I guess everybody knows who are the real estate consultants in the world. Yep. And we're going to show them, look what we have done for these great companies.
Excellent.
And we're going to partner with them, and we're just going to offer our solution on an enterprise scale, on a worldwide scale, because these are worldwide companies. They consult all over the world, and we're going to explode. Okay, this is going to be the standard.
Yeah, and the thing about real estate companies in general is, at first, you look at what's happening in the world with shock and horror, and your immediate reaction is to defend, right? So I'm sure the CBREs, the Jones Lang LaSalle's, all of the big agencies out there, DTZs, I am sure all of them right now are speaking to their clients and saying, no, you should stay in space. There's a show, because they're trying desperately to defend, but they're trying to defend a losing battle. Right now, they're General Custer, and there's a heck of a lot of Indians around them, and they ain't winning. Like, they can hold out for a little bit, but they ain't winning. The smart move for all of the real estate companies is going to be to create the greatest hybrid models of the future. It's that every single company will start to use them the same way that they actually use the real consultants. Because I don't consider real estate consultants as consultants. I consider them as pretend consultants, right? They sell you 20,000 square feet and then they say, well, here's a report that we did last year in association with Gartner and a thing. Like the real consultants are like the KPMGs, the Ernst & Youngs, the BDOs, those guys. But that's because they look for holistic solutions. And I think what's going to happen with the real estate folks is they're going to desperately need you because you're going to allow them to make that transition from boys and girls that just really gave office space to people to real professionals that are able to custom make a proper, bespoke facilities plan for every single company, but using Artishok as the backbone.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. And don't forget, there are other real estate, very large real estate companies that are all they can offer that also to their clients to use this technology. So if you're dethroned, you have to find a new weapon to fight with, right? That's the only way to persevere.
That's how you go from Blockbuster to Netflix. I agree. So look, obviously for anybody listening, Expert Dojo and I, as the representative of Expert Dojo, love Artishok. We love the future of work. We believe this space has needed to evolve and has needed to be just picked apart, to be rebuilt again. I've believed it for 30 years. Not just because COVID has happened. COVID has made it an inevitability. I love the fact that we have one of the greatest technologists from one of the greatest technology countries on the planet which is building this. And I implore any other investors out there, reach out to Amit and his team, sit down with them, look at their plan, look at some of the pilots they have going on right now, because some of the companies they are working with are off the charts. And do some diligence yourself, and I'm sure you'll come to the same decision as ours. Amit, to finish up, can you share with everybody your email address, please? Website, so everybody can go out and check out exactly what you guys are doing. And maybe just share with us a parting gesture about what is the most important thing that you've learned about entrepreneurship on this whole journey.
Oh, wow. So I'll start with the finish. So I think being modest. Being modest, that's the most important thing. And to listen, of course.
That's two things.
Two traits you have to adopt.
You get one for free. And share, how do folks find your website, and then how can people contact you directly?
So it's I think we're going to share it also via other mediums. So it's artishok.io, and my email is amit.p@artishok.io. And since it's kind of hard to write it down, so I guess we'll provide him with another measure.
Yeah, well, let's just spell it out for them on air as well, just so they have it. Just spell out Artishok for them very quickly.
Okay, so it's artishok.io.
Yeah, so it's cleverly spelt, but it's all about Artishok. You peel off the layers and then you get into the core of something absolutely delicious and beautiful, which is where it comes from. Amit, I couldn't be happier we've invested. I couldn't be happier with everything that we're doing. You're a great human being. You're a great person. You're building a phenomenal company with an incredible team. And I am proud and privileged to be on the journey with you.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Love you too. And thanks for having me on this podcast again.